Well, after the brilliance of Duel and then something evil, yeah, the next horror film, which was a theatrical release, a feature film, was a little film called Jaws. Yes, yeah. It's about a fish, well, a shark. And obviously, this was the breakout monster hit for Spielberg and led to, Mount Olympus for him and everything like that. For a director to become a star in and of himself. I suppose you could go to Hitchcock and the like. Usually most people can't name the directors of films and stuff. But such was the case for Spielberg, certainly after this. And a lot of it goes to his ability to figure things out. The famous stories about it, that the mechanical shark didn't work, so they had to figure out how to shoot around it. And it uses the elements of less is more, in the sense of, even though you know what it is and everything, there's a certain level of threat and terror in that you don't see the shark. You know it's there, it's coming. You see the fin, stuff like that, and all of that. And this works very well with a lot of monster movies. Some monster movies that have the money and the monster looks really great and realistic, but, you don't really achieve the psychological punch of terror. Whereas with Jaws here, and mostly about how foreboding the water can be. So the line eventually, I think it was more for the sequel than the original, but just when you thought it was safe to go back to the water, or something like that, And there was a lot of trepidation and fear concerning beaches and whatnot. Well, shark attacks do happen, and they do. And so this was akin to, going back to Hitchcock with Psycho and the shower scene, And so you're completely vulnerable in the shower, and then somebody comes at you with a knife. Well, same thing here. You're minding your own business in the water. Granted, it is the shark's territory for the most part. But, you're just having a good old time. You're out there floating in the water. It's fun. And then, something touches you. And so right off the bat, you're introduced to the elements of the film with the skinny dipping girl. You say, wow, this is great. Beautiful blonde girl's going to go skinny dipping. And well. Oh, here comes Jaws. And then, of course, the iconic theme of Jaws, which is absolutely spot on and perfect for the excellence of John Williams, and plays into this. And there you have it, the full-on horror of this, that, there's something below the surface, and you can't see it, And by the time you do see it, it's usually too late. So now the monstrous aspect of it, beyond the usual incidents of this, when it does happen, where you got surfers and whatnot, and they'll lose a leg, and some don't survive and whatnot. The sharks usually aren't giant sharks as they were with Jaws, but it is possible, though very rare, that they get that big. I'm just guessing. But anyway, the rest of it, you have the guilt-ridden of Chief Brody and all that, even though he backed down to Mayor Vaughn and the town said, hey, this is the 4th of July weekend. You're talking about closing the beaches. No way. And, he yielded to it. And then, sure enough, disaster strikes, and there's a very serious consequence for everyone involved, and there's a guilt running, and of course the fear and the terror that he himself experienced, because he knew something had happened, and it wasn't 100% sure. People claimed they had gotten the shark and all this sort of stuff. And then that's another great shot in the film that Spielberg captures when he realizes, oh crap, it's here, and it's just perfect. And it's like you're experiencing that feeling that you get when the idea comes to you. Maybe you figure, oh, it really wasn't, or something like, but that adrenaline rush, jolt, and sickening your stomach of absolute total terror. Even when it's not really directed at you, but it's someone else is going to get badly hurt or killed, and that sort of thing. And that's the position he's in, and there it unfolds. So he's got to form a team. So, of course, Dreyfus comes in. He's the professor who has the scientific knowledge of sharks and their behavior and whatnot. And then you have Quint, who's made a life of hunting sharks. And eventually he gets the contract because they realize he's the guy they should have listened to about how to hunt a shark. And off they go. And the movie takes this interesting turn to it, where you get this relationship developing between the three, and they're unlikely to have anything in common with one another. But there's an understanding that comes, even though Quint is very, very difficult and all of that. But nevertheless, you get the story, and of course he tells the story from World War II and the Indiana and all that. And it's, talk about foreshadowing. Here he's obviously got a personal animus towards sharks. With all the trophies of shark jaws at his place and everything. And he's going after this one. And, well, spoiler, doesn't work out for old Quint. And that's the interesting thing. He survived that, but it's almost like the others didn't, and it's weighed on him. It obviously took its toll on him. And here he is, his ultimate fate is within the jaws of Jaws. But Chief Brody manages to take this opportunity to do in the shark and blow his head off. So there you go. It works out. But all of the elements of terror are brought in there, and easily for whatever else Spielberg would do later, and I don't know what he might do even now, whether direct or produce or what have you, but Jaws is going to be the horror masterpiece of his work, of horror movies that he was involved in, and there's really no chance of anything else unseating it. And Jaws was sort of the breakout moment of where the blockbuster, the summer movie, all that began. And it's had a good run. It looks like it might be coming to an end now with the strange era of AI and streaming and all that that's been happening over the years. And where that goes, no one really knows. But in the early 70s, a film called Jaws with a mechanical shark that didn't work, but somebody figured it out and made a masterpiece.